Hello, welcome to the final whistle. I'm Kenzie Benali.
And I'm Steve Forbes.
Despite pushing hard, it was Pep Guardiola's men that walk away with all 3 points from St Mary's this evening. And here to dissect that whole match with us now is Dean Hammond and Adam Leach. Welcome back, gents. We knew it was going to be a tough one tonight. Adam, what did you make of that game?
Yeah, I mean, it was a tough game. I thought it was quite a high quality game, to be honest. And I think it actually underlined for me how far Saints have come this season. Man City were at the end, they were wasting time. They were desperately trying to run the clock down at the end. They were, celebrating like they'd gone 5 points clear at the top of the league. Some of the players, they look really jubilant. And that's a mark of respect for Saints and how well they've done and how far they've come. I guess if you're going to be a little bit critical, you just say when you look overall this season at the time Saints have played the big teams, they've kind of given them all a real game and a real scare, and they haven't converted any of those into a win, which, given their form in the other matches, is perhaps a bit disappointing. And to come away with nothing when arguably I think they probably did deserve something from this game, in my opinion, is a bit disappointing. But you've got to, I feel like this season especially, you've really got to be taking the positives, and just to see, how far they stretched Man City, a team with such incredible quality, a club with such vast resources, and losing Danny Ings and still being able to do that. I think, credit to Saints. I think, I genuinely believe, though they might be a bit disappointed not to get anything, I think that they will come into training for the week they've got ahead of Fulham pretty buoyant after that, after the kind of the way that they gave Man City a good game. I don't see this being a dent to them. So I think overall, shame we didn't get the result, but still a really positive day.
Yeah, lots of positives to take from that one for sure, Dean, because Southampton really didn't make it easy for City tonight.
No, they didn't. They gave a really, really good account of themselves. I thought the performance was very, very good. It was a very even game, to be honest. If anything, I think Southampton were the better team. It's different when Man City are one up. They can kind of play a little bit deeper and play on the break. But no, Southampton played very well and had them opportunities first half that we mentioned. There weren't clear-cut opportunities, but I think there was 2 headers within the first half where Shea just didn't quite get a connection on it. Vestergaard had a free header that he headed over within short space of time. And they're just a little bit of details, the little moments that if you're going to beat the best teams, you kind of need to take. But no, they played very, very well and pushed Man City right to the last few minutes. And like Adam said, you don't see many big teams like Man City coming to St Mary's and then playing out for time. They're usually attacking right to the end, trying to score 2, 3, 4 goals. But no, they were very, very happy to come away with a victory at St Mary's. So it just shows how far the team's come. And I thought they played well. They were patient today. They were good in possession. They created half opportunities. And I enjoyed the fact that the manager was quite brave in his substitution decisions, bring the youngsters on, which was good and shows the trust he's got in them and the way that the club's moving forward and the philosophy of the football club. So some positives come out of today. Not the result that we all wanted, but Man City are a top team. And when Kevin De Bruyne and Sterling combined, that's the difference. Man City scored a really, really good goal.
Yeah, well, scoreline aside, one of the main things that Southampton fans will be talking about is that injury to Danny Ings. Dean, how concerning just is that?
Well, I hope it was a really sensible and educated decision by Danny, where he maybe felt something in his knee and thought, okay, I'm not going to risk this. I've been in this situation before. I'm just going to get myself out of the action, get myself off the pitch, and hopefully it's settled down and it will be okay. But yeah, it's obviously a worry. It's a bit of a scare, and you could see that the manager was disappointed. Danny looked really, really disappointed. And I actually think it probably happened when he had that opportunity with the header. And kind of got knocked off balance potentially there. So hopefully he's okay. And I think that was the difference, really. I think if he'd played second half, if he'd been fully fit, them half opportunities where the balls are flashing across the box when the crosses were coming on, Danny seems to be, he's that natural goal scorer. He would be in them positions. So he may have converted one of those. So hopefully he's okay. But we've seen before when he's been injured, other players have come in and performed well. So hopefully he won't be out for too long, and it's just a sensible decision that a few days rest, a week's rest, he'll be okay.
Adam, Dean said earlier that he enjoyed the fact that Ralph gave some youngsters a chance today. How interesting was it that Nathan Tella was the man to come on and replace Danny, and how did he do for you today?
Yeah, I think it was really interesting, and I must admit I didn't call it when Danny was down, and then you kind of looked like he was coming off. I fully expected to see either Nathan or Stuart Armstrong stripping off, expecting Walcott to go and play up top with Adams, and one of those guys to drop in. And I was thinking, oh, I'd really like to see Redmond, but Redmond, Gineppo, is that a bit much in those areas? I'm not sure. Maybe Armstrong's kind of against a team of City's quality is the one to bring on. But then when it was Tella, I mean, I genuinely was quite taken aback by that, and he did all right. I mean, I'm not, it's a difficult situation to come into. In a way, there's no pressure on him in some regards, but I think the most encouraging thing was that what you saw from him was that he played with the same kind of intensity that the more senior players do, and I think that's really important. It kind of goes to underline that Ralph is spreading this message of the way he wants things done all the way through the club, and even to the young players coming into the team. And he executed that well. He had one or two really great moments. That fantastic ball that he put across the face of the 6-yard box was in the second half was great. Maybe other occasions he was just kind of found out maybe a little bit over eager at times, or just not quite having the quality at this stage to deal with, again, to be able to exploit such international class experienced defenders. But overall I think it was good, and it was good to see them getting a game, and it was good to see that Ralph was brave enough to go with whatever he thought was the best solution and not panic and just go take the easy option in a way, which is just to go, I'll just go with experience because Man City, I'll just go with experience. He kind of had the courage of his convictions. He talks up the young lads a lot, and he proved he's going to back them by throwing them into big high profile matches like that. So so I think I was surprised, but no complaints for me. And I think Nathan Tella can go away and be pretty happy with his work, because he certainly worked hard.
Yeah, well, we'll have to wait and find out the severity of Danny's injury, but someone who will definitely be missing the trip to Fulham is Oriol Romeu, who picked up his 5th yellow card of the season. Dean, how big a miss is that going to be for that match on Boxing Day?
Yeah, there's no hiding away from it. I think it will be a big miss. I think he's been excellent all season. He does everything you want a midfield player to do, especially the basics, very, very well. He performs at a high level, and he allows the attacking players to go and express themselves because he gives that disciplined cover. He understands the position he plays in. So he's been fantastic, and he proved that again today. A really, really commanding and demanding performance. But it gives someone else an opportunity now. Maybe we can see Diallo come in and play. He's been waiting for his opportunity, and we'll see how good he is now. So there's a lot of potential in him. He's been a good investment by the football club. And this is what happens in football. Players get suspended, they get injured, and other players get their opportunity. So this is why you have a squad. But no, he's definitely been fantastic, and it was another good performance today. And look, who knows, maybe a little rest against Fulham is a good thing for him. He can refresh his legs, because he has been quite demanding on him and James Ward-Prowse playing in that position. But he will be a miss. But it was going to happen at some point, because he does like a tackle, and he does pick up a few bookings.
Well, the fans are very much echoing the thoughts of both you, Dean, and Adam. Very much impressed with the performance today. Carl Bridge has said very close game. I think Ralph and the boys should be happy with the performance. Draw a line under it and we march on. Risa said outstanding work ethic from everyone from today. Supot has said good performance for this game. We played better than City, but today it just wasn't our day. David, hello to you. He says the closing minutes was when we missed the fans to get behind the team, an adrenaline push to get the equaliser. And we've also got a comment here from Robert. He says they gave it everything, and you really can't ask for more.
No, you can't. Well, Saints did go 1-0 down in the first half early on. But Adam, it wasn't all City in the first half, was it?
Oh, certainly not, Steve. No, I mean, Saints, they started superbly. They really did start well. I mean, that first 10 minutes, 15 minutes maybe, they really had City under a lot of pressure. And City looked at that point like they weren't quite expecting Saints to play in that way with that level of intensity. They didn't expect such pressing. I'm not sure why they wouldn't expect it, but they just looked caught a little bit cold. And Saints were very, very intense. I mean, the goal is, yeah. I mean, you could pick apart a few bits of it, but it was a very high quality goal with two of the best players in the world right now combining to produce it. So you get caught occasionally against absolute world class players. That just happens, and you can study the videos and you can find fault in it, but sometimes you do just have to say, well, actually, the reason these guys are the best players in the world is because they are that good, and sometimes they just do things that are very hard to defend against. You know, it's easy to watch back a replay and pick it apart, but it's actually very hard to compete with those guys. And so credit to them. But Saints were competitive throughout, in fact, more than competitive throughout, and probably felt pretty hard done by to be in at half time, 1-0 down, I would say. Yeah, I think it was just such a shame, like Dean said, when they had those little moments that they had during the game, those sort of chances that they just couldn't quite test Edison or get a shot on target. Especially, I think that the two Dean highlighted, the Shea Adams header, that was a really frustrating one because it was a great ball in from Walcott, who spotted where he was going. The run was fantastic. He just held off that second. Knowing that the left back had completely lost where he was, made a darting run behind the left back, straight in front of the centre half, and you just think, just get a clean header, and it's a goal. And that was a frustrating one, as were Vestergaard's couple of headers. But so probably didn't deserve to be 1 down at half time, but I'm sure they went in pretty happy with how things were going generally in terms of their performance.
Dean, how did you rate the Saints in the first half? And also, what did you make of the appeals for a penalty on Danny Ings?
Well, I agree with Adam. I thought they played very, very well first half, and they started at such a high tempo and such a high press. It kind of shocked Man City for the first 10 minutes. But then obviously you knew Man City were going to come into the game. They started stringing some passes together, some combinations, and then they grew into the game and scored a very, very good goal. But no, Southampton would have been very pleased going into half time with the chances they created, the opportunities they created. And they were half chances, they weren't clear cut. But against the top teams, you do have to take that. That Shea Adams opportunity, like Adam said, is a really, really good run. And I think he's shocked that the ball's there and kind of like he's free and he's not being competed against. There's no challenge on him and just doesn't get any contact with it. And Danny's header, I personally think I'd be appealing for it if I was a player. I think it's 50-50 whether it's a penalty. I was listening to the commentary and the referee made a statement saying, well, he's got a clear header or a good contact on the ball, and then he's fouled. But I don't see how that's not a foul, because Danny will be aware of the defender, so he would change his body shape. He would change, potentially, he may take his eye off the ball because he's feeling a challenge coming in. So I don't quite understand how that ruling works. If Danny's on his own and he heads it and it goes wide and then he's contacted, that's different. But he's being challenged as he's headed the ball. So either way, you could say that's not a penalty or it is a penalty, and I think it potentially could be a penalty if I'm honest. But I'm probably being biased because I want Southampton to win. So, but no, Southampton first half definitely held their own and could have been 1-0 if not 2-1 up.
Yeah, well, looking at the second half, Adam, Southampton seemed to have quite a lot of the ball, but that didn't really materialise into chances in the Manchester City penalty area.
Yeah, I suppose that was, if there's a disappointment in the second half, it was that they kind of struggled to really create. I mean, Man City having got their lead, they were happy to sit back and play on the counter attack. Having that lead gave them the opportunity to kind of dictate the way the game went tactically. They were happy to kind of keep the ball at the back and try and almost get Saints to overcommit for their press, and then try and just play through them quickly. And when you've got people with the pace of Sterling, then you can, and you've got the quality to produce the passes to find him, then you can play that way, really. And yeah, that was probably the slight disappointment. And maybe that I felt that a few times, maybe that was where the only downside of bringing on those young players showed a couple of times, that just that bit of inexperience with the kind of final ball, final pass, cross, making a couple of runs, that was kind of just maybe just lacking with the younger players, especially against such high quality opposition. And obviously we saw Gineppo go off again. It was another just a slightly frustrating performance. You felt like there was more from him in the locker than he actually produced. Even Nathan Redmond came on. He had a couple of chances, but even he wasn't quite as effective as he was the last couple of substitute appearances he's made. So yeah, it didn't quite happen for Saints in the second half in terms of it in the penalty area, but they kept plugging away, and I think that you can only commend them for that and say, well, that goal from Man City kind of did change the game massively, because it just gave them that ability to make it much, much harder for Saints to be able to create those chances.
Yeah, Dean, for you, what was it that didn't quite click for Saints in the City final third in that second period?
Well, I think Southampton had a lot of possession, and they were patient with the possession, which allowed Man City to get back into shape on occasions. And the first half, I mean, the biggest threat was the diagonal from Vestergaard, which was a fantastic pass. I mean, he's done it 2 or 3 times. And Man City became aware of that. So they changed they didn't play quite as narrow second half. And I think it was just towards the end, they just ran out a bit of energy, to be honest. I mean, Theo Walcott was fantastic, I thought, today. He performed very, very well, but he got tired towards the end, didn't quite have that extra yard of pace to get away. The substitution in terms of Nathan Redmond came on. Adam mentioned he had a couple of opportunities when he was fresh onto the field and wasn't quite up to speed. And their opportunities, if he'd been playing from the start or been on a bit longer, he potentially have had a touch, moved the ball again, and then shot. So it was just a little bit of details. The ball's coming across the box. The strikers didn't quite make them runs, and that could be down to fatigue and tiredness. And I think missing Danny, and what I mean by that is, I think Walker-Peters got in some great positions today, and for some reason he was a little bit negative, didn't quite cross the ball at times when he could have done. And I think if Danny was on the pitch, he would have told him. He would have demanded the ball got crossed into the box. He would have made them runs. And if Walker-Peters or Redmond had not crossed them balls, he would have let them know with no uncertain terms. You cross the ball, I'll make the runs. If I'm not there, that's not your fault. And I just think that, like Adam mentioned, a little bit of inexperience with the younger players. They're not quite there yet to be able to demand that, but that will come. So it just, like you say, just didn't quite click, but it was almost there. And you've got to remember, they're playing against Manchester City. This is not against Sheffield United, no disrespect to them, or Brighton. This is against one of the best teams in Europe. So there's still some positives to take from it.
Well, putting this City game to one side then, the next time the Saints are in action will of course be on Boxing Day when they face Fulham. Adam, what are your early thoughts on that one?
Well, I mean, it's another winnable game. I mean, when you look at the results now, as I mentioned earlier, there's a pattern that's emerged this season, really, for Saints to have got to the position they've got to, and that's that they've basically won nearly all of the games that you look at and you think, well, they're winnable games, and then the ones that you think they're tougher matches, they've either lost or they've got a draw. So, on that basis, you feel like, well, they've been very, very efficient at outclassing and outperforming the teams that are below them in the table, and that you expect to struggle a little bit more. So, I mean, obviously, some of it depends on Danny as well. Of course, we hope he's fit. Depends on what happens with Romeu being out. So I think there are a couple of question marks there that will need to be answered. In terms of the sort of depth of the squad. The rest of it's not too worrying. I mean, they've got a week before this game, so they've got a bit of time to recover after these 3 matches and then get ready to go again for another busy few matches. But yeah, I think Fulham are an improving team, but they are a team that are very much there for the taking for a side of the quality that Southampton possess. I mean, they're not anywhere near a Man City, and Saints ran Man City so close. I think there's a good opportunity for another 3 points, and I'm sure after I think it has still been a great run, but 1 point from the last couple of games, albeit it's Arsenal, Man City. When you've played well, I think Saints will be really keen to go, okay, well, this is the one you kind of expect us to win, so let's make sure we get 3 points on the board, because if they keep on this season beating those sort of teams consistently as they have so far, they're going to remain in and around the upper echelons of the Premier League. So I think it's a good chance for them.
Yeah, Dean, I think it's fair to say that Southampton are the favourites going into this one. But as we saw last weekend, Fulham put on a great display against the current champions of the Premier League. There really are no easy games in this league.
No, there's really not. There's no easy games in the Premier League, especially away from home. And Fulham are a pretty decent team, and they're, like Adam said, the word he used there, they're an improving team. They're starting to understand what the Premier League's all about. I really like Scott Parker as a manager, to be honest. I like the way they play, and they've started to play with more of an intensity that you need to play with in the Premier League. So it'll be a tough game. But one thing Southampton have done well all season is react. When they've lost a game or drawn a game, they've generally won the next game or performed very, very well. So they definitely go into favourites going into the game because of the position they are in the league, and I think they'll be happy. There'll be some frustrations and a little bit of disappointment because they've not got anything out of the game today. But they should be happy as well. They've pushed a top team right to the limits, like they did against Manchester United when they lost 3-2. So the confidence will be high. They've got a week's rest now. They can recover. They can look at the game in detail, and I think they'll go into it thinking, right, this is 3 points we can get again, and start after Christmas well, go into that really busy period with a really good result and 3 points.
Yeah, well, Dean, Adam, thank you so much for your input on the final whistle. Have a great Christmas, guys. All right, and we'll see you after on Boxing Day.